The crime of having sexual intercourse, and what is incest? The crime of having sexual intercourse with a parent, child, sibling, or grandchild. So that's a little intro to our topic. Daryl Joseph joins us on set this morning. Yesterday, news broke. An 84-year-old man has been held by police for questioning and the allegation sexual assault against three of his grandchildren. Daryl, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Hema. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm fine, thanks.
Now, you know, yesterday when I spoke with you on the phone, you asked me, how do you want to look at this?
Yeah.
And we have had so many discussions about protecting your children. And you tell them, you know the people that they are around and know their environment. And not very often you tend to believe that a family member may be the one that you have to be protecting your child from a father, from a mother, from an aunt, from an uncle. And I don't want to talk too much about the case because I know that it is before the courts, but a grandparent as well.
Yes.
What do parents really do? How do you get it right?
Well, the thing you have to, as a parent, that you have to recognize is that, statistically speaking, abusers tend to be people who are close to the child. All right? So forget the notion that somebody from outside, a stranger, will come in and do this. It is normally the people you described, a cousin, a sibling, somebody around the home. These are the people who normally would be the ones perpetrating these crimes, all right? There are some behavioral signs that you can look out for in persons who are likely to commit. There's some things which I can talk about that you can look out for. But the most important thing, you know, they always talk about prevention being better than cure. The most important thing is to speak to your children regularly, ensure that they understand that there are some parts of their bodies that nobody should be looking at or touching or tampering with, and educate them as they go along as to what is appropriate behavior and what's inappropriate. Because there is no way you can guard your children 24/7. The other important thing I want to say up front is anytime a child mentions anything about somebody touching them, doing something to them that made them uncomfortable, even if they don't have the right terminology, you have to, as a parent, take it seriously. You cannot at any point in time just write it off as being children being miserable or children just being kids and talking and doing things that they see or they heard. You have to take it seriously.
Now, I spoke with attorney at law Wayne Sturgeon, and he was talking about what the law had to say about this. And he said, the difficulty that police officers will always tell you and social workers is that, and I guess you're a psychologist, so you can probably shed some light into this, when they suspect a case of sexual abuse or assault on a minor, depending on the witnesses, so sometimes you will never get the mother admitting that this has happened.
Oftentimes.
But if you go to the child, psychologically, because this child knows this as a loved one or a member of my family, will not identify the correct person, but will identify the act as well.
Perhaps,
how then, he says that he's been involved in cases where the evidence is there and you know that this has happened, but the child will never say that my mother's boyfriend or the person that I call daddy is the one touching me inappropriately.
You see, kids don't really understand what's happening to them, all right? And very often they feel shame, they feel guilt, they feel that they somehow might be responsible for what happened. They sense that it is wrong, but they feel that they are somehow implicated in the whole thing. Now, in some unfortunate cases, you actually have a situation where a child feels threatened because of the words and actions of the parent who may be, raising them. You have to sort of try your best to allay the child's fears that they will somehow be punished by admitting what happened, that they somehow will suffer. You have to address that directly, because that is usually the source of the child's apprehension and not wanting to admit details of an instance.
Now, in a situation like this, if you look at, and I have to skirt around this issue because of the fact that it is before the courts, but if a grandfather is accused of sexually assaulting not one, but three of his granddaughters, and there must be some other member of the family, that there must be something that suggests that there's something not right in this situation. What are some of the warning signs? I can't imagine that listening to the story, and these things don't happen today and end tomorrow.
That's right.
They go on for prolonged periods of time.
That's right.
So what is it that we all missed?
Yeah. Okay. Among the signs that you look out for in a person who may be abusing children, some of the things you look out for will include things like whether the adult has what might be considered like very familiar behavior with the child, like unnecessary touching, oh, not just that child, but children on the whole. You know, there's some boundaries that even for a relative might be a little bit extreme, like too much touching or too much hugging, too much playing, and, you know, a lot of contact, a lot of close contact. You look out for that. If you know anything about the person's life circumstances at that point in time, like, for example, if they're very depressed or they're going through a lot of difficulty and stress themselves, because there are multiple reasons why a person may end up doing this, all right? And I'm not at all saying that they're not wrong and it's not a crime. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that there are many different catalysts. But one of the main things you look out for is that kind of inappropriate level of familiarity of the adult with the child. And in terms of the child, depending upon their age, you look at things like, well, certainly if there's any physical damage to them, if you're seeing discomfort in their walking or sitting and so on, I mean, those are very, very clear signs that they've been interfered with. But even before you get to that stage, sometimes children they often act out things or they discuss things of a sexual nature that are inappropriate for their age. You know that they didn't learn this watching Sesame Street or Nickelodeon. You know that you didn't teach it to them. You know they didn't learn it in school. Where did it come from? Did they see it? Did somebody do it to them? You know, those kinds of things.
You know, are we encouraging parents to become hyper-vigilant?
Just below hypervigilance, whatever you call that, I would say yes. You have to be really, really careful with your children. It's important that you allow them to be independent, to develop their own relationships and their own social skills. But there are certain things that you have to monitor. You must know who they're with. You must know their friends. You must know, you know, where they're spending time. You have to, like, you're not going to put your child, all right, let's say sometimes a parent might want to go out or something and they want to leave their child with a relative. You have to be very careful about who's around that relative, because you might leave them by an aunt, for example, but does the aunt have a lot of nephews that you can't put your head on a block for? Is the home very open and there are lots of people in and out of it, right? Are there uncles? Are there, you know, boyfriends and so on? You have to sort of suspect everybody. And it's sad that we got to that stage, but in order to be careful enough, that's the way you have to be.
You know, and also the conversation that you have, because a lot of parents find it difficult to begin this conversation. Because it's something that's still, it's very underdeveloped in our country.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
The other day I was reading something, if you have a daughter, and these are the conversations that you have, and even at the age of 5, you should start distancing yourself and not letting them see you change, and establishing these boundaries so they understand these boundaries. So what are some of the behavioral changes that you would advise parents to exhibit?
All right. Again, everything, you can't condense it all now, but you have to work with the child, the age that the child is at. All right. For example, at age 2 or 3 years old, it is appropriate to identify body parts, because the children know their body parts. They learn that in school, and to identify which parts people should be looking at or should be touching, which parts should be just for mommy alone or for dad. You understand? Things like that. And, you know, you have these regular conversations with them. Did anybody see you today? Did anybody touch you when you were bathing? You know, you ask them these things because they can tell you. Children tell you all sorts of things. Their memories are amazing, okay? And as you keep that, you start that from that age, and you keep that sort of dialogue going with them throughout their lives. And it's very important that you never create a situation where they feel as though they will be condemned for bringing anything to your attention.
The situation with that story we're talking about, apparently the girls told a family member of what was happening, and they didn't listen.
Yeah, that's all too common. That happens all too often. That's why I go back to what I said. Anytime a child brings this up, you have to take it seriously.
And then you have the flip side of, you may be protecting your child, but other children may be exposed to things that they are not aware of as well.
Right.
So when your child goes to school, what do you, so we tell them, make sure that no adult touches you here. But then there may also be children that are experimenting and not knowing what's happening. What do you do then?
You talk to them all the time. You have to talk to them every day. You have to speak to them all the time. My family, we have children, and we speak. We have, you know, one little one right now, but we talk to her every day about this stuff.
What do you tell her?
Same things I was saying. Like, my little one is just 3 years old. So when her mother is bathing her, for example, she'll talk to her, you know, how is school today? Did anybody see you today? Anybody touch you here or touch you there? You know, little conversations like that, and they tell you. And fortunately, she's never said anything like that. But
if your child does tell you that something has happened, what is the first thing that you do? Usually, in order to prove that, well, I mean, depending upon what exactly happens,
If, for example, you suspect that there has been penetration, you must carry the child to a doctor because they can verify whether something has actually happened there or not, all right? If it's something less than that, you know, it depends on the circumstances. Where did it happen? You may want to address whoever was in charge or whoever was the main, you know, the person, the most senior person in that place at that point in time. If it happened at a daycare, for example, you'd want to talk to the owner of the daycare. If it happened to a relative, you'll want to talk to whoever is the adult or the most senior person there. But you do not just let it stay there. That's my major, major point.
Okay, and then for parents themselves, because, you know, we talk a lot about the victims, but the parents are also victims in this.
Absolutely, yeah.
What is the healing process that begins? Because there's a lot of guilt that accompanies every single party in this.
That's right, that's right.
How do we deal with that?
It is, honestly, that is something that I have seen work most effectively in therapy. Because of the nature of it, it's not something that adults, parents can go and talk to anybody about. And then, you know, what can the average layperson tell someone in that situation that actually will be helpful? If you tell them things like, you know, it's not your fault, well, of course they feel it's their fault. I'm the parent, all right? So, you know, it's something that needs to be worked on, and I've seen it most helpful and most effective in therapy with parents in particular.
What is the one thing that all parents who, I guess, are part of families that have suffered this faith, what is the one thing that they all share in common?
Turning a blind eye to their children's cries.
And when that blind eye does occur, what is the aftermath or the effect on the child?
Yeah. Usually the child will not want to talk about it anymore because children by nature trust their caregivers, their parents, entirely. And once a parent doesn't listen to them, there's a certain level of that trust that's broken, and that child is not likely going to want to take that sort of chance with anybody else.
Now, we're going to take a very short break. When we come back after the 7 o'clock news, we have a few minutes again with Daryl Joseph, as we are going to open the phone lines just for a very short bit, because this is a topic that continues to affect so many people in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's just about educating the parents who may have a few questions. Sometimes you don't know who to turn to or what to ask, and if you have a child that may have asked you a question that you don't know how to answer, please feel free. So just for a little bit, because Daryl has a very packed morning, he's going to answer a few of your calls. Stay with us. Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. Well, as we promised, we're just going to open our phone lines for a little bit. This is a very emotional topic, and I know the last time that we had a guest on, we received a number of calls. So just quick house rules. Please remember that we are trying to respect the rights of our viewers and also those, our guests and all those involved. It is a very emotional topic. If you have any questions to our guests, please try to make your contributions as quickly as you can, because we're trying to facilitate as many callers as we can, and we know we have a very tight schedule this morning. So it's 627-8658, 624-7214 is on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Hema, and to your guest this morning. Just one quick question that I have for your guest. How do you deal with a child that is in a secondary school, has been molested for the last 5 years, and now she has a baby? I don't know what to do. Could you give me some ideas as to what to do?
With respect to the child or the child that the person who was molested now has, when you say deal with them?
I guess it's both in that regard, because I think she's left already.
Okay, okay, all right, yeah, I forgot. Again, well, there's two different issues there. I'm not too sure which one exactly we're talking about, right? What I would say is that if you're doing it on your own as a parent and you're not getting through and things are not working out, probably that's your cue that you need to reach out for some assistance, some help, and maybe consulting with somebody who deals with that kind of situation, who deals with molestation and deals with teenage pregnancy and so on, could probably be the best thing I could say at this point.
Are there a number of hotlines that you can call, ma'am, if you don't know where to turn? And obviously, this is a very traumatic experience for not only you, but for those involved in the situation. We have another call on the line. Hello, good morning.
I believe that grandmother had know something about it.
Sure, yes. Thank you so much, caller. We can't talk too much about that case because it's currently before the courts of Trinidad and Tobago, and in the court. The courts are saying that, you know, you are still innocent before proven guilty. That's a tenet of our justice system. The situation in Diego Martin that we were talking about this morning, where police blocked off portions of the highway, we understand that it was actually a murder and not a road fatality. 627-8658, 624-8721. Our phone lines are open. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I'm calling from Arima, the psychologist there. I am wondering about the grandmother, about this situation with the children. I mean, 3 children are telling you, even if it is that you have to, at some point, try to do your own little investigation, but I find that the children were ignored. And I find that is a situation that parents have to be aware of, because you are hearing 3 children complaining. Sure. Try to do your own private investigation.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, caller. Daryl, why do you think there's a sort of, barrier, a psychological barrier about seeing and actually wanting to look into these situations?
Well, first thing, parents don't want to believe that it's true because, it's one of the worst things as a parent you could hear. So normal shock, denial, any attempt to sort of make it unreal and push it away, sweep it under the carpet. But then there might be other reasons why. Sometimes there might be financial implications, for example, or there may be implications in terms of living circumstances, that if something happens to the relationship between the adults, it may destabilize the home, or it may destabilize people's lives. So there are many different factors that normally come into play.
Let's take our final call for this segment. Arima, good morning.
Yes. This is Arima.
Good morning, Arima.
Morning. Yeah. This program is a program that has fallen right into my home. And I want to find out, because I grew up in the boys' ward of the mental hospital. Mm-hmm. And in my life, I have reached work in Whitehall, work in community development, because I had tutors like Mrs. Nesta Patrick and Mr. What is my name?
We are running out of time. Can you either pose your question or make your comment quickly?
Yeah, my question is, how do I get in contact with you all? Because Dr. Michael Bourbon have a book.
Okay, sure. Well, you can call the newsroom, 800-2623. Thanks so much, caller. Your closing comments.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'd just like to reiterate again, parents, caregivers, those looking after children, please, please, please speak to your children about what's appropriate and what's not. Remain engaged with them at all times, and certainly, importantly, listen to them. If they ever complain about somebody doing something inappropriate, wrong, or questionable, do not deny them the opportunity to explore it further. Don't tell them that they are lying. Don't shut them down. Listen to them and investigate what they are talking about, please.
Investigate it and don't turn a blind eye to what may be a potential crisis in your home. We take a very short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you. This is The Morning Brew.